Welcome to the Sound Mind Strategy Podcast with your host, Evan
and Anina Blankenship.
This podcast is aimed to be an in-depth discussion between husband and wife power couple where we take on challenging topics in the mental health and wellness arena.
By trade and training, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, certified professional coactive coach, USA Cycling National Champion, and I love to push my limits both physically and mentally.
As for me, I am currently in a master's program for sport and performance psychology, where I'm also on track to become a certified mental performance consultant. I've also been coaching athletes for the last 5 years, helping them reach their truest potential.
We're both very passionate about athletic performance, mental skills training, spirituality, and we love to take a holistic approach to helping people find harmony in their mind, body, and spirit.
We believe that there's greatness inside of everyone. Our mission and the mission of this podcast is to help you unlock and operate within yours. Hello, everybody. Welcome back or welcome to the Sound Mind Strategy Podcast. This is episode number 17, following right along line with week 17 of pregnancy for Anina. So, yeah, we're excited to come back with you this week and record another episode. How you feeling?
I'm feeling well after that nice nap we just had, like a 2-hour nap.
Oh my gosh, that was so needed. It was just like got back from church and we were like, hey, let's just take a quick little snoozer and, get ready to go for the day kind of thing. And it was a long one.
It was a long one. Definitely needed though. We didn't sleep well last night, so that was perfect.
That was great.
But yeah, I definitely feel good and refreshed. And I know everything says don't take naps because it messes with your sleep tonight, but I did not care.
Well, yeah, I think don't take like a whole full like sleep cycle, yeah. But I mean, naps are good; they're needed. But that was a long one.
Nap.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how well we sleep tonight.
I know, gosh.
Honestly, I don't really care. I slept awesome.
I know. So. Yeah, it was nice. But
yeah, so we had a really nice meeting with a good friend of ours. Actually, one of the really good friend of yours who gave you one of the pregnancy books that we love to read that's the nightly. That's the one that new little entry every single day. So that one's really cool. So she read that and kind of went through that with her pregnancy. They have 2 boys. So it was really fun. We met with her and she's so skilled at web design and that kind of stuff. So we had reached out to see if we wanted to update our website and kind of polish that up, add some things to that, add the podcast to that, make it a little bit more accessible, user-friendly, kind of suit our needs a little bit more. And she's so talented. She was asking a question. I said, we're both kind of like, I don't really know what we don't know. I don't know what we need kind of thing. So she was wonderful to work with and kind of, so nothing's done yet. So everything's in the works and she's kind of helping spearhead that. And
it was a really good meeting.
Yeah, at least if we don't end up working with her, she's definitely going to point us in the right direction to someone to work with. And so we're really pumped, really excited to get that going and just keep moving forward. I mean, this is a journey for us as well as everyone else who follows along and hopefully find some value and some good stuff out of this. Yeah.
That's our hope. Yeah. Yeah. And so I know, like you were saying, with it being week 17, is that we were going to talk a little bit about what's happening with the little nugget inside. Before I talk about that, I did want to just share exciting news that we reached 1,000 downloads.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I know,
cool.
For us, I guess we are content creators. Yeah, I guess we can put ourselves in that category. Like,
yeah, that was really
we had
neat.
kind of always said, even if nothing else, if we can only just sit down and have a great conversation between husband and wife, then that's perfect. That's great. If anyone else finds value in the topics that we talk about, then that's even better. That's wonderful. So to hit 1,000 unique downloads,
we were ecstatic. That was so cool.
That was so pumped, and I kind of set a goal, like I wanted to get that done by the end of August, and to already have that done and kind of have another week to go. Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm so excited to see that number, and then also like have our highest like single day worth of downloads from the last episode. So episode 16. That's wonderful. So we're kind of like wanting to digest that and break that down a little bit. Like, is it of all the listeners, did more of them that just download on that day, or are they new listeners? Is it organic growth? Is it people sharing the episodes? So we're going to look into that and just have fun growing. And so thank you to everyone who has shared, who has stuck with us and grown with us and put up with some of our uhs and ums and likes and pauses. And,
yes, we truly appreciate that.
Yeah, it means the world to us, and it really does. And thank you so much for all the kind words, the people that do reach out and share and communicate with us on social media, people that reach out, just friends and family, and then also the ones that share our content outside of that too, into your own personal circles. That means the world to us. So thank you.
Yes, very much.
So how's little baby doing? How's baby B doing? And baby B is in Blankenship, not secret first name, because we haven't decided anything yet.
Right, we're still figuring that out. Doing well. It's he is the size of a pomegranate now.
Ooh.
Yeah, just pretty cool. And also the baby book said that he can hear us now, which is really neat. So we did start having a little more conversation with him the past week. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
so
that's fun.
We got to keep the conversations going with him and let him know how much we love him. So it's been neat though to know he's the size of a pomegranate, and it just seems so crazy to think that he's like,
it's so fun
big.
doing that. It's like, it still kind of feels like we're early. I know time is flying by already.
Yeah, this is month 4, right?
Yeah,
month 4.
Time's flying by, and ticking the weeks off, and I know it's only going to like seem to speed up even more as we like approach due date. But man, it's just so fun to like keep reading that, and like all the new things that just happen every single day. Like it's really neat. So it's fun.
It is.
It's quite the journey for us. It's obviously a brand new journey for us, as this
first time
this
parents.
will be our first. Yeah, so we're so excited, and I love the random comments and little texts I get from other first time dads. We haven't spoken a couple weeks or something, and I'll just get a blurb. So obviously he just dealt something with his life, or just an aha, just like, hey, I better share this. And so it's fun to have those conversations with friends. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good. I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good. Just right now, it's kind of dealing with some sleepiness, but that's okay. It's part of it. Yeah. You too. I know. I'm like, Evan is too.
Wait,
so
I feel bad. I feel bad saying that kind of stuff, because it's just like,
but it's like sympathy.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, of course. Sure it is. Yeah, it is. It's sympathy. And then kind of update on the house hunt, like the one that got away. Like we found one, like we're working with the realtor, and she's been wonderful on Illinois side. We're also working with one in Missouri too, until we kind of like decided, and obviously that was kind of our talk last week, right? So we narrowed it down and decided, like, okay, financially and for a lot of reasons, I think it's just better for us to move back to Illinois.
Yeah.
But stay within the kind of stone's throw into St. Louis. So kind of looking at that Glen Carbon and Edwardsville area. But anyway, we had found a house that was just like gorgeous. Everything. It had everything that Anina wanted and I wanted. Like, it was an old home that they just had redone everything. The kitchens, the baths, the walls, the floors, the ceiling, everything was just immaculate. And of course, like day one, as soon as it hit the market, it had an offer and a backup offer and everything. So
it's gone.
It's gone.
But there's another one out there for us. So
yeah, we've had some friends praying for us, and send some kind notes, because that was the one that we sent out to everyone. Oh, the one that got away. And they're like, we believe the one that's coming for you, the one that you're going to love just as much will be there. So we believe that. We're waiting. So we're patiently waiting. So
yes, patience and waiting.
Yeah. But
so
for me, like road season's winding down. It looks like there's only about a 1 week left, one weekend.
Yeah, this coming weekend, right?
Yeah, coming weekend. It's Gateway Cup here in St. Louis. It's probably one of the biggest series, so it's 4 days in a row. Kind of touring around some of St. Louis parks. So each night's in a new park.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. Like spectators come out, some evening races. It's a lot of fun. So that's I've had some good luck here in years past. Also some bad luck here in years prior to that even. But it's fun. So I'm looking forward to that. But kind of like looking ahead, just what do I do next year? What do I do in the off season? I kind of want to just change things a little bit. So we're looking at that and exploring. We kind of talked a little bit about the running and how I might implement some of that, some mountain biking. So stay tuned. I'm still praying and thinking and deciphering all that. But and what are those other things that we kind of wanted to talk about?
I think that was really it today. Just to kind of touch on those pieces of things to start off with. And
I think that's kind of all the catch up into Anina and Evan's lives. That's you are caught up.
Yes, consider yourself caught up.
Yeah, but a lot of those things kind of transition really well into kind of the topic of what we wanted to talk about. So cycling and always having to be in, what do we wear? I mean, cycling is a weird sport. We kind of wear some of the goofiest looking clothes out there, right? Like this spandexy clothes and stuff.
A little butt pad on there.
Yeah, wearing Lycra and everything. And then also kind of with everything that you're talking about with pregnancy, how your body changes and we're starting to develop baby bump and hunger and all these things. So it transitions really well. And so the main topic of kind of what we want to talk about today is body image and just kind of our take on it, how we've dealt with it, how it has affected our life personally, individually, and also how it's affected our relationship, I think. So those are some of the things that we kind of want to hit on today. So Anina, you want to start us off? You kind of want to talk a little bit about maybe, I don't know, where do you want to start?
So I want to start with just, what does body image mean to me and what kind of emotions and feelings that evoke for me. So for me, when I think about body image, what comes to mind for me is just how do I think about myself and my body? And how does that reflect even as far as my self-esteem? If I'm feeling skinny today, am I I'm more happier today? And if I'm feeling, overweight today, more in a grumpy mood. And so that's years prior of really how body image and the way I thought about myself really affected me. I will say today it's different the way I think about myself. It's not so, I want to say rude and crude towards myself, but I have noticed just with this pregnancy, it's you get on the scale and it's whoa, what is going on here? And then it's oh yeah, I'm pregnant. This is supposed to happen. But it's just, for me, it's, it just brings back some of those old memories of trying to fight the weight on the scale and why does it keep going up? Why does it keep going up? But it is a constant check for me because yes, I do understand I'm pregnant, but it's still kind of, I've just noticed some of those old thought patterns trying to rear their ugly heads back in again.
What triggers that for you? Just seeing, just flat out, just seeing a number?
Seeing the number and then
or feeling or looking at yourself? Or what?
Yeah, just seeing the number and then also just, my clothes feeling tighter, noticing larger in other areas than some. and and don't get me wrong, I understand this is part of pregnancy and it's well, embrace it. You're pregnant and I get that. And I'm working on getting to that point. And I feel like I've done a really good job of staying at that point, but to be totally transparent, some days it really hits me and I'm just oh my gosh, I feel like a whole different person. And being at this weight, where I'm at right now reminds me of just back in the day when I was like hated myself at this weight and was just like, oh my gosh, if I could just lose 10 more pounds, I would be so happy. And the funny thing is before pregnancy, I was 10 pounds lighter, and sometimes, I don't know, it's not always the key to happiness, I've really discovered too. So yeah. But yeah, so that's what it kind of evokes for me. It kind of like makes me think about like where I was, where I'm at now, and kind of how I'm having this little bit of a struggle right now. So that's what was kind of coming up for me. But what about you when you think about body image?
So having been like kind of in this endurance athlete mode for a decade or better part of a decade, I think body image is a huge component of that, what we look like. Because a lot of times you're wearing, whether it's running, whether it's swimming, whether it's cycling or any other thing like that, like you're generally wearing, kind of, just tight, revealing clothes. People can see
every lump, every bump.
Right. So, I mean, obviously it's beneficial to the sport, but also you have to be very vulnerable. I mean, for me, like, yeah, it does bring up a lot of that because you compare, or I don't want to say you, I'm going to go ahead and just be flat out honest with me and how I felt and say some of the words that I would say to myself. So I'm not going to cover it up. I'm not going to be polite about it. Just, that's how I would feel, think, and talk to myself about it. So yeah, I would feel awesome. So I'll just start off there. If I could see the veins in my legs and, stomach was flat, arms were veiny, and I felt really good. Same thing, like you mentioned, I would carry a lot more confidence. I would walk upright more. I would feel like I was going to have a lot better day, whether I did or didn't. And then other days, I felt like I had a little gut, or my legs were a little puffy, and I wasn't quite as vascular looking. I just felt pudgy. I felt slow. So like, why would that make me feel slow? Or I would feel less than. I would call myself fat, like, man, you're just so fat. Like, get on the scale every single day. And that number would set the tone for what I did that day. Would I ride extra? Would I eat less or nothing? Or would I just like, oh, I'll skip a meal, Yeah, so do I feel like I struggled with that? Yeah, I do. Is that a old thing? No, I think it's much more now than ever. I think in my early years of it, not a thing. I didn't really worry about it. And then as I progressed through the sports and as I got into newer and higher categories with some of the more well-trained athletes and the more elite level riders in some bigger races, and I felt like I had something to prove or whatever the feeling was, body image became sorry if you can hear that, we do have neighbors still. I hear some loud noises. Okay. But anyway, but yeah, a lot of that would go into like just how I felt and how I perceived myself. So am I worthy, to take the start lane? Am I worthy to line up to so-and-so? Are they better than me because they're skinny and fit looking? They have the appearance of fitness where maybe I didn't at times, but maybe I always did. And I just would be so critical that I wouldn't allow myself to even see it.
Yes. It's very true.
Yeah. So I was, and then coupling that with someone who, quote unquote, is health conscious. I do a lot of research into nutrition. I do a lot of, that's something that's been very important to me over the last several years, really forever. I don't want to say forever, but like even into early high school, like I was always into nutrition and how to eat and fuel as an athlete. And it's evolved, and I've taken on different things and tried different things. And over the last 5 years or so, I've kind of adopted a vegan plant-based diet and have seen awesome results. But now over the last year or so, I've really been struggling. I'm carrying more weight than I have been.
Yeah.
Not ever, but like really have been since I began the whole endurance stuff, right? So I'm back to like my biggest and I don't feel good, and I talk terrible to myself, and I feel negative a lot, right? Yeah, so it's my mood, my attitude, the way I feel like my ability to interact with others, or to ride with teammates or to interact with teammates really hinges on what that number was in the morning, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very powerful.
What I look
isn't
like,
it? Yeah.
how I feel. Do I get up and feel like I'm sinking into the floor, or do I feel light on my feet?
Right. Yeah. And like what I'm hearing too, it's like that struggle of figuring out how, like, how can I get to that spot to where I love myself regardless of what the number on the scale says.
Yeah.
And I look at it like these are just bones and tissue and ligaments and just.
Oh, absolutely. I know that stuff through and through. I mean, have taken tons of physiology courses, and when you were kind of dealing with that, I was like, Anina, like how much do your bones weigh?
Yeah.
How much blood do you have in your body? Those kind of things, like to make you question that number of like, well, how much of that is essential? Like what does that number really represent? So of course I know this stuff, but when you see it to yourself, like you can't apply it, right?
Yeah. It's easier to say it to someone else and then to receive it for yourself. Yeah.
I mean, I've reached out to, even to the point where I'm reaching out to like nutritionists and dietitian, and like these people, like sports nutritionists, like I need help, I'm out, like it's there's a lot of unanswered questions that I'm like, just like,
what is going on? Is it just like my body's new normal, or is it like something else deeper going on that I just don't know and understand?
Right. Yeah, it's a scary thing. For me, these are some of the personal struggles that I've had. And so like a really good friend of mine, I had raced with and trained with quite a lot. He was also very weight conscious, but I don't know, maybe in an unhealthy way, maybe in a healthy way. But he had since kind of like quit racing a little bit. But we would still chat quite often about my training and racing. And I would always, I'm saying that in a very realistic way, like almost every single conversation I would bring up my weight, and I just got to get a couple more pounds off, or almost there. And he's just like, man, you're really obsessed about this. Like, oh no, I'm doing it in a calculated way. I'm doing it right. Like
kind of hiding behind that calculation.
Way. No, I know what I'm doing. I just and he kind of saw right through it and was able to call me out on it, but I would never listen to it. And I would always be focused on like the power to weight ratios. I would always be focused on food, what to have, what not to have, when to eat, what not to eat. Doesn't mean I like always followed that, because I do find like I would do really well, and then I'd crumble and I'd cave, and But yeah, it's very revealing to kind of like have this conversation and to get a lot of these things out. I don't think anyone knows a lot of these things about me personally.
Right.
I think you only know really about, I would say most of it, but a lot of this stuff just doesn't get talked about.
Right. It's kind of one of those things like we kind of just stuff down, and it doesn't come up until there's like an eruption or whatever, till it's too late sometimes. So I think talking about it now before it starts to manifest into something else is so important.
So share some of your personal ideas and thoughts and experiences on maybe as Baby Bump grows. I don't know, whatever you feel led to share.
Yeah. So I think just kind of going backwards just a little bit of just how body image has affected me so much. I just think back into the day when I got out of, and it's so interesting sometimes to think about like where, and I think this is a really important question to ask yourselves, because I've done the work too, and asking myself like, where did the root cause of this come from? Like what has caused me to feel like I have to look a certain way, and and that my worth is tied up in that. And so I think a lot about just, just growing up, and I can just remember it starting at like a very early age where I was always comparing myself like, gosh, like, why do I have more muscular legs than my friends? They're all tall and skinny. And I remember getting like those 17 magazines, and you'd see all these like really tall, slender girls on there. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, like my body does not look like that. Like I have this like funny birthmark on my thigh, like just all these like comparison things. And, I remember like one of my friends growing up was like, yeah, my mom said that you're more of a gymnast and I'm the ballerina type. And I remember I was just like crushed because I was like, I want to be a ballerina.
I want to be the ballerina.
I know, and I was like, oh, if it wasn't for these big old thighs of mine, I could be a ballerina.
I don't want to be a gymnast.
Exactly. So I just remember just having those like, it's just like, golly, I was in, I don't know, first or second grade having these conversations. And I think just some of it, yeah, it's like even at an early age, I remember myself always comparing myself to other people and just thinking I didn't quite measure up. Like they were prettier, they were skinnier. And, yeah. And so I'd always was like, feel like even from like that young age, always thinking about just, not even really just thinking about my weight, but just always comparing and just felt like I didn't measure up. And I think what the really turning points were for me was going to boot camp. I was in the military, in the Army, and I remember I went in at a certain weight and came out actually weighing like 90 to 100 pounds. And much less.
Yeah. What did you go in as?
Like 130.
Oh, okay. So you lost 30 to 40 pounds? 35
in 9
pounds?
weeks. Yeah.
In 9 weeks.
Yeah. It was insane. And nothing was like meant, like I did not try. I had no clue that I lost that much weight.
And you didn't have access to a scale. I mean, this is something like, I also was military and
stress
boot camp
and food you're eating.
You're not, I mean, you step on a scale, I think 1 or 2 times when you go through some physicals, but like, you don't have access to one every day.
No. So and I remember when I got back home, I like had a meltdown because I was
really even mirrors for that point.
Yeah, I think you said like a face mirror, basically, like when you're brushing your teeth, washing your face in the morning. But that was like about it. That's all I recall. But yeah, I remember coming back home and getting ready to start college. And I was like, oh my gosh, none of these pants fit me. And I remember having like a total meltdown. And I was like,
all too big.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, like nothing fits me. Da, da, da. But it was like, okay, Nana, you finally arrived now. Aren't you going to be like, so happy, and now you know what it's like on the other side of like this amazing feeling.
Now you're a ballerina.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm a ballerina. Everything looks, I'm like, because it kind of like slendered out my legs. Everything was, I was a 00. I mean, it was crazy. And I just remember, thinking like, oh man, I can wear tight clothes now. I don't have that little lump of bump in the front, and I was just like. I was feeling like on top of the world for a while. And what happened is that I started to notice that when I started to eat more regularly again, and by that, I just mean like eating like just normal food. I remember like having boxes of Triscuits and chips and stuff like that. I guess more of the processed stuff that I didn't have in boot camp. I would notice like, whoa, I am like starting to put some weight on. These little 00s are starting to get tight. And so from there, it just kind of really spiraled out of control where I was, got into a lot of eating disorder issues and was like a lot of, started out with anorexic, but then it was I had more of a pattern, so for the week, Monday through Friday, I would have hardly anything, like a little scotch of things, like nothing, work out twice a day. And on the weekend, I would binge and then purge. And it was just like this constant kind of routine I had. And it stayed like that for a couple years, I would say. And then came back to college one semester, one after one summer. And I had the whole other extreme of forget it. I could care less, and I'm just going to go to town and eat every single thing I want. And so then it's like I came back to school with an extra 30, 40 pounds on again. And so there was a lot of shame and just a lot of frustration with myself and just that balance, it was like a teeter-totter, it was like one way or the other. But finding that balance was really hard for me. And so it's kind of been like a long journey. And when I think about where it begun and where I'm at now.
That's really tough because that's kind of like around, I would say, after that period when you said you kind of just let go and ate whatever, I didn't come into the picture until after that point. Because that's like pre-deployment.
Yes,
and
that's
then,
like pre-deployment.
Then you deployed and came back, and then that's when you and I met.
Yeah, that's when you and I met. And I was probably like at one of my heaviest then, because I was, overseas in Iraq, and food has always kind of been like a comfort for me. So instead of acknowledging, the frustration and the fears and just the loss of losing friends overseas, instead of like acknowledging that and coming to terms with it, I would eat my emotions. So, so it's like, I'm going to have cake every single night. And send me bags of M&Ms. I'm going to eat them all. But really what it was is, now when I look back, I was never addressing my emotions and my feelings that I was having. It was just a continual stuffing down. And I did that with food. Some people do it. I've done it with other things too in my life. But at that point, it was food that gave me that comfort, got that release, and felt better after I ate all that.
I relate to that. I mean, mine was different reasons. I had a similar yet still pretty different experience overseas. I was still pretty fitness driven at that point. Like, I was very much focused on the bodybuilding side and lifting weights and being strong. I had kind of done that through high school with some of the other sports I was involved in. I'm not an endurance athlete at all at this point. And when I got back from overseas, I kind of joined back up with some friends of mine that were pretty heavy into like lifting weights and gym, those kind of guys. So we would do that, and I was trying to put on as much weight as I could.
Yeah.
And fulfill that like body image role that way. Still very much body image related, right? Like, the whole point of that is body image.
Yeah.
To fulfill a certain role, to have muscles and fulfill all these things. And then I did it completely backwards. And then I come into so I was eating a lot on purpose, gaining weight.
I remember that.
And I was also at my absolute heaviest. Here I am at like 5'6", and I'm like 185 pounds. Like, a lot of it was muscle mass. I was also, like you, very like lower body heavy. Just I put on
more
muscle
dominant,
pretty easy, especially lower body muscle weight. But I worked really, really hard to try to build up the upper body, and I also put on a lot of just body fat at that point too. I don't want to say a lot. Like, I didn't look like a overweight, but I definitely wasn't like super chiseled and fit either.
Yeah.
Had gone through the phases, like, bulk up as much as you can and trying to cut down, then you go through like try to chisel it all up kind of thing. And, and then just through some friends and everything found endurance sports. But so then it took me several years to
get that weight off,
try and get that weight off and get to my lightest. So the same thing at 185, maybe touching on 190 even at my absolute heaviest. Maybe not, but maybe it was definitely within the 180s. And then at my, like, coming a year after being hit by the vehicle, after we had been riding for a while. So, a few years after that, but then at my absolute lightest for my best one of my best races and best racing years, I would think, year after I got hit by the car, I was 138. I mean, that was my absolute lightest, what I remember seeing on a scale. So, I mean, as an adult, same thing. Like, that's a lot. That's a big, almost 50-pound swing.
Yeah, very true.
And then I've gone back up again. So just, all that definitely plays on my psyche, and all that plays like I won't be good again unless I can get down to that, low 140s or, 140 on the dot.
And where do you think like the root of yours, like I know mine was like a lot of childhood and just.
Oh, absolutely.
You say a lot of yours.
Same. Yeah. Same too? Thing. Being the short kid, red hair, like overlooked for a lot of things, very introverted anyway. And then like, very easily stood out in the crowd, like very easily picked on for whatever, because I didn't, look like everyone else, I kind of quit growing and they all kept growing. I was still short and, red hair, like I mentioned. And I always just felt like, an outcast for something, like, so body image, to not give them anything else to pick on me for. So then, but then I was still also very athletic and enjoyed a lot of those things. So I think that's where a lot of that comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. And just those, sounds like too, just those pressures from society to conform, to fit in, and to be like everybody else.
Same thing. Like you said, you get those magazines, and I don't look like those girls. And yeah, I kind of picked myself apart. Same kind of thing. Like the kids you see on the TV shows and the kids in the neighborhood, kids at class. I didn't get I didn't do the magazines like that, but same kind of thing. You just like, well, there's no redhead here.
Like,
there's
which
no,
one is different?
There's no short kid, like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that kind of just weighed on me. I was very analytical about things, so I was very quick and easy to pick up on that. I know, and it's
so interesting to me too, as we've been talking, of thinking about, like, I feel like this is something that you really don't even have to be sometimes taught. I don't, it's just weird, because I feel like, nobody taught me, like, hey, to, like, you know what I mean? Like, what I'm saying? Like, nobody sat down and had like a little lesson with me, like, okay, so this is kind of what's happening, and you're comparing yourself. And
yeah, you mean to notice that you look differently?
Yes.
Or art, be able to be like critical and say, they're tall and skinny, I'm like short and muscular.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
but why is that wrong? Why is that bad? Like,
exactly.
Why is it bad to be short and
Right.
muscular and be the gymnast? Like, you think of all the wonderful, you think of Olympics, they're all very short, very muscular, and performing on the highest stage in the world, and given all the accolades and accreditations and claps and cheers, and
right.
Like, why is it okay for them but not me to be that way?
Yeah, and I don't know if some of it's too, like, the group of people you hang out with. So if it's like, okay, they all look a lot alike, and I'm the one that's kind of out of place. Like, yeah, just
that was for me. I was the one out of place. And thank you for letting me tag along, because it wasn't my group; it was their group that they let me tag into.
Right. Yes.
That's probably not true at all, but in my mind,
it was
very
that's what
true.
It was.
Yeah.
I know. This is so good, because it makes me think about, like, what, one of our coaches we're working with talked about, like, the whole, like, you can't heal what you won't reveal.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're doing right now, like, revealing so much.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of giving ourselves just a little coach session here, like, able to work this stuff out and, open up some things that we've shoved down inside those, you put that in the little lockbox and cram it down deep inside, and don't let anyone know anything about it, because that's a vulnerability or a weakness, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So what would you say? Would you want to move into kind of, what we've done along the way to help?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, from what I've kind of shared already, like, it's not what I've done, it's what I will say what I've done in the past, and then what I'm also, like, doing to kind of work through some of this stuff. Yeah. I think that's a great place to start. Do you want to lead us off on that, or do you want me to go ahead and take it, or?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, like, when I think back, it wasn't that, like, so when I always think about, like, when I was at my leanest, so a lot of, and sometimes this triggers, some negative things too. So you have to be very careful. But when I look back, and instead of saying, like, what was I doing, like, in terms of training, eating, this and that, like, I look at it, what was my mentality like? What was I thinking about? What was I saying to myself?
Yeah.
I want those things to come back into my world.
Yeah.
Right? So it wasn't obviously it's very good to look at, like, what were my eating patterns, what was my training patterns, sleep patterns, to take a look at some other things in life that may have been a very big contributor to that. So I think those are some of the big things. And that is when I was doing the most amount of mental work ever in my life. I've never done more work consistently and consecutively than at that time frame.
That time. So it sounds like to me then, like, so kind of like sitting down, taking that time to think back to how was I thinking, what was I doing, kind of like what were my thoughts around things, and almost being able to take those, capture it, and then bring it here with you now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but what was I thinking about? And why? I wasn't thinking about losing weight. I was thinking about riding my bicycle again. Like, I had just been hit by a car, broken leg, broken ribs, and punctured lung, and, not sure I was going to be able to return to the sport to any level, right? So I am listening to all these positive affirmations. Les Brown is huge in my life. If you don't know Les Brown, Google Les Brown
him before.
and listen
He's
to
great.
his talks.
Yeah.
That dude will fire you up. But anyway, so he was on repeat. I was doing that. I was visualizing winning races, visualizing being strong again, visualizing being able to, pedal a bicycle with some force, some good power again, instead of just tooling. So that's what I was doing. I mean, every single ride, because I wasn't allowed to be outside for a long time. So even in my indoor training, like, that was on repeat. Like, that's what I would do. And I would listen to my body, and when it said it had enough, I was done. So I listened to my body. And I was that mental work. I mean, daily, every day, and multiple times a day, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like for you, even at this time in your life, it perhaps would be helpful to start doing more of that.
And I've revisited that, but look at this. My motivation's different. My motivation is, I got to do these things to lose a few pounds. I got to do these things to get a handle on my weight. So I'm no longer performance driven. I'm body image driven. I'm if this then that, which isn't true. It's just like, be performance. If you want to win races, if you want to ride well, if you want to execute a certain amount of watts, then why is that not your focus? If that's what you say you're wanting, why are you focused on weight?
So shifting your focus on...
Yeah, my motivation is wrong.
Yeah. So what do you think it'll take to get you to change that motivation?
A mindset shift, really. I think it's a mindset shift, and I think it's come in alignment of, what do I really want out of it, and what's it offer me? What's it give me? What role does it serve? Kind of thing. So I think there's some real deep reflection on what my motivation is, what some of the root causes are to create these negative loop patterns, what masks I wear to, you know what I mean? Like, what mask am I wearing to say weight is hiding something? You know what I mean? What am I hiding?
What am I protecting myself?
What am I trying to protect?
From?
What persona am I trying to reflect through lightweight or skinny or ultra fit or whatever?
So almost, since it's like a revealing of, like, taking that mask off because that one's not good, throwing that one away, throwing that, like, kind of just a peeling off of these layers and masks.
I mean, I know a lot of these things just from a knowledge standpoint, and I love having conversation with people, and but like, even as a coach, like, I need a coach. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if you're coaching athletes, you're coaching people in business coaching, that whole, wherever you apply coach to, I think a great coach needs a great coach.
Yeah, I agree. You got to keep developing.
We're all human. We're all going through our own battles, and no one's got it figured out. And if you find
a coach, doesn't
if you
mean
find
you got
a coach
it, yeah.
that says they got it all figured out and I don't need anyone, then I would search for a new coach personally.
Right. Yeah. So, like, a lot of what I'm hearing you say too now, it's like, no, I haven't got it all figured out. I have some tips and tricks and tools that I can use and start using. And yeah, I just appreciate you being honest about that. Like, it doesn't mean that you have it all figured out yet. It's a process.
Yeah, I mean, that puts me, like, as someone who, does make money through service, service and coaching others, like, I don't know, you feel like you need the appearance of, like,
got it together.
I got it together.
Right.
And I mean, I do have a lot of knowledge, experience in a lot of these things, but I'm still human. I'm still perfect. And on the athlete side, I'm very much kind of, like, I love the accountability part. Do I have the knowledge to coach myself? Absolutely. But I love the accountability. I love to seek mentorship and guidance and expertise from others, people that have been in the game a little longer than me. Yeah, I think it makes me a better athlete, makes me a better coach. So
Yeah, I agree.
but a lot of that is just like reflecting, that deep reflection of like, what are the root causes of that? And like, can I find a good synergy of, positivity, and why do I want these things? What does that serve me? Like, if I get it, what's that do for me? And then also what's that persona? Like, do I not feel that I'm worthy enough to be in a circle if I don't have that? So I think it's just finding some of that self-care, self-love. I think that's where my root issues fall.
Yeah, it is. And I think too, just noting of just like, how am I talking to myself? I've heard it like this before. Like, would I talk to a friend like that? Would I talk to a family member like that? Well, no, I wouldn't be like, wow, you're fat and ugly. And why are you eating those potato chips?
Yeah, you
like,
sure you want to eat that?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, man, we can totally dole it out to friends and those we love so easily. So what about giving myself a little grace and loving on myself some,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So what about you? Do
we have time left for me to tell about me? No.
We got time.
So, so for some of it, for me is, I'm like, man, why am I getting all emotional? I think it's because of pregnancy hormones.
You can blame it on that. That's a valid. I'll take it. Accepted.
You can do that if you want.
Approved.
So some of it for me is just, I just think back, like, and it may sound like, and to some people, like, okay, whatever, but it's true. And I mean it from my heart that I know one piece that really helped me was really the Lord. Like I struggled a lot with my body image and just even like had not so good thoughts about myself and was just like, gosh, why am I even here on earth? I shouldn't even be here. Like it was to that degree. And I just remember like all the time just being like, Lord, why can't you just take this away from me? You know this, I hate this.
Yeah.
This sucks to be in this spot. Like, why have you not taken this? So
You're fine. You're good. Take your time. I know it's tough to kind of dig this back out. And I mean, this is years ago. The stuff that you're talking about, that's before we got married. This is when we were dating. I mean, so it's been a lot of years. And I mean, look at the emotional response that you're bringing up. Yeah, you're pregnant, but I think, I just know you. I think you'd have this emotional response anyway. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, goodness. Like, oh, I didn't see this one coming. But yeah, so it really was just like a, just a long battle, but it's like, I can't even like sometimes even put like words to it, but it is like God was able to remove like those things that were really, like tormenting me, basically my thoughts and things. And it's like, I can't even like describe how it happened. And, but it was just like this constant laying it down. Like, I don't want this, Lord. Like,
I think that's really valuable, just to kind of interject really quick. Like, yeah, he took it, but, don't, I guess, negate your part in that. He was unable to take it unless you laid it down, and continually, because oftentimes we say this in, like in a way like, oh, I kept laying it down. Well, a lot of times I know personally, and we go turn around and go pick it back up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he tries to take it and like, nah, I'm going to take that back.
Exactly.
Now I'm going to carry that burden a little bit longer.
I want that again.
That's comfortable. I know I hate it and I want you to take it, but it's familiar. I'm going to take it.
And that's exactly what it was. And I felt like I just had to continually be like, just basically like stripped of this that really had a hold on my life. And
big time.
Yeah. It was a constant release.
Someone who walked very close with you during that period, like it had you big time.
Yeah, it did.
Shaped your every thought every day.
It really did. And so like that is just something that I definitely cannot like sidestep and not give due credit to the Lord, because that was a huge piece for me. Cause it's like, I can't even put words to it. It was just like And I don't want to say like it was all of a sudden just like gone. Like it's gone. You're healed. Like you don't have it anymore, because it's not true, as I stated in the beginning. But it's like, it's a totally different degree. And it's like the way I understand it now, it's like I acknowledge that sometimes I have these like unhelpful thoughts about myself, but it's no longer me like trying to fight it so much. It's like, yeah, I get it. I understand I'm having those thoughts right now, but I choose this over here to think instead. And like, what does God say about me? And I know like a verse that really helped me a lot was the, Psalm 139:14. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. And I know that full well. And so that was a very like healing verse for me, and I'll just sometimes just, paraphrase it like, you're beautifully and wonderfully made, kind of put it into my own words, but it just helped me like start to see myself through the Lord's eyes and to see that he made me, he made me unique who I'm supposed to be. And he made me like, the girl who has like the more muscular legs for a purpose. And so,
well, yeah, it paid off. You're a national champion, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
like, ballerina
ain't gonna do that. There's no power in those legs.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So it really made me think like, quit trying to fight who he made you to be. So, so that is one.
No, I think that you touch on a really important thing. It's just like, I'm made for a purpose. But just admitting that, like, that's a really hard thing to say. Well, I don't look like all these 17 magazine girls, but I'm not here to fulfill the purpose that they are. I have a different purpose to fulfill.
Yes.
We're not all the same. We are unique and different, and personalities and body types and body images. Like we all have different roles. Some are sledgehammers and some are the polishers, but they're all needed in the final work, right? Like you can't polish with a sledgehammer and you can't sledge with a little, the emery cloth, like we all have so many different talents and abilities, but for the final work to be completed and the final, we come together as one unit, one body, like we all need each other. So
yeah,
I think to be able to look at that and just say, no, I do serve a purpose. I do have value. And the same thing with me. Obviously I'm still working through this and I'm in a new chapter of like, this is new to me to have kind of struggles. Like, the last several years I've been like feeling great. It was a piece of cake. And now this last year or so has been very hard and mentally challenging. I definitely don't think it's to the degree of what you described, but it's difficult. And I know that I can rely on you because you've walked this path before me, and you're entering a new phase with pregnancy, but I think your frame of mind and your mentality on it is in a really good place. Those catches come so easy and much more natural. And it's also, I think that's just natural human nature. Your body's changing just to have that negativity come in, but then you check it real quick and just say, I'm growing a human. I got little baby B in there and life is good. And, things are going properly. And if I'm not gaining the weight, then things aren't good for him, and I want things to be great for him.
Yes, because and you bring up like what I call it, like the catch it, check it, change it, and that's
cool. Yeah,
use a lot of just like catching that thought, because we all have zillions of thoughts that go through our heads in a day, and so it's like instead of just like randomly just letting these thoughts, I almost just like think about like you're sitting there and these thoughts are just like just ping ponging all over in your head. It's like not letting any thought go unchecked. It's like checking it. So catching it, check it, change it, like what is that thought I'm going to catch? How am I going to, check it? Now I'm acknowledging it and then change it. Like, so it's whether it's doing the positive affirmations or scripture or whatever really helps you as a person to move through it. I think it's really important. Or we've talked about writing them down, and just acknowledging them.
I think those affirmations are great. I know a lot of those, like when I was, coming back from injury, that was something that was huge for me, and it's continued to be something that you and I do to this day, depending on goals, is we write them down, slap them up on the mirror. We see them every day, multiple times a day, and it's just like, I don't just like, it doesn't, I think the important part is don't let it just be a picture on the wall kind of thing, like, oh, I know it's there, but I don't really pay attention to it. Like, look at it, read it out loud. Let yourself, let your ears hear your voice. Say it. There's so much more power when you hear yourself say these things. I am that. I will do that. I am doing. There's a lot of strength in that. There's a lot of power in that. So,
it really is.
Do you really kind of have anything else that you want to add to, kind of some of the things that you've gone through, some of the things that really helped you, kind of gain some ground on it?
No, I just think recapping, like I said, just kind of like with just laying it down, constant laying it down for the Lord and helping me heal through that time. Also, I just have done a lot of thought work. It's just like a lot of that has helped me like study that, really immerse myself in it, because I realize, like Joyce Meyer in her books, The Battlefield of the Mind, it's like that battle is in the mind. And that's where a lot of it, where it begins. And so just getting very clear on what's happening with me in my mind has really helped me a lot. I'm no longer just like a victim of all my thoughts. It's like, no, I have control over this. I don't have to let that thought take root and develop a neural pathway in my brain. Like I can stop that before it has time to grow.
And that's really important. You bring up a really good thing there. Just touch on it very quickly. Is just the same way of not letting things grow or take root is like also understanding that things already have grown and take root. So you've been watering that for a long time. So be patient with yourself. Understand that building new pathways, building new thought patterns, changing old ones, tearing down old ones, that also is going to take time, So be patient with yourself, find consistency, and don't beat yourself up when you like revert back to it. Like, understand that's the way you've been doing it for so long. So to start turning right instead of always the left you had always taken, like, it's okay. Just you take that catch yourself, change
exactly.
it. Just like she mentioned.
And and a lot of times that comes to mind for me, if you're kind of like a visual person, it's helped me just to like visualize a garden, and when you're starting at the beginning of the year, tilling that garden, you're pulling out all the weeds that are in that garden. But you don't just pull them out, then you got to replace them with something new. So it just makes me think a lot about our thoughts. And sometimes those weeds, when we're pulling them up, they're pretty strong and they're in there and you need like 2 hands, or I got to call Evan, call some help in to
get some
pull
tools
that,
in there. Yeah.
Get some tools in there to pull it out. So it's, I don't know why that visuals really helped me a lot of just thinking about the garden and whatever works for people. But sometimes I have to go back to that of thinking like, hey, this is a garden. I'm pulling this out right now. But there's a lot of value in me pulling it out from the root, because now I can let the pretty sunflowers.
Instead of just chopping it off at the top, right?
Exactly.
Can't leave those roots in there.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's, and it's
well, and it also gives you power because it's your garden and you have the power to grow whatever you want to grow.
Exactly.
Right. If you want to let those weeds grow, that is also your choice and within your power to allow that to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's definitely, as we've talked about and shared, it is not easy. And I don't want to make it seem like it's just as easy as this, but hopefully it's not coming across like that, because it's not. It's very hard work. Yeah.
So just kind of wrap all this up. I think that's a really good spot. Just you mentioning that, obviously, depending on this it depends on the severity of it. Like you've heard, granted, these are just 2 cases, and there's hundreds and thousands and millions of other stories of people struggling with body image issues, and the severity of that is going to vary, tremendously.
Yeah.
So depending on your own case, your own issue, what are some things that we can do, right? So we would recommend just doing some of the things that we talked about. Like if you don't reveal it, you can't heal what you don't reveal. So you got to reveal it. You got to make it open to then start working on it. Do some of that deep reflection work to find the root cause. Like we said, we went all the way back to our childhood to find what were those things that led to that we started picking ourselves apart, and then it becomes, it can become trauma and become other issues. What are we trying to hide? Who are we trying to be? Are you trying to be that chameleon? Are you wearing a mask to portray as something else, a different persona to fit into any particular group or whatever?
Right.
So what I recommend is doing that deep work, and finding, I think, work with somebody. If it's find a coach, someone that you can work with this on. Maybe you need to find a nutritionist if it's like nutrition related, or find a personal trainer if it's, getting back into the gym. Find someone to help you. Be accountable. Don't try and take everything on by yourself. You're like, don't worry about that. That's completely fine. And also, depending on the severity of it, like Anina said, like she went back to the point of, she was like, I don't even think I belong on this earth. So sometimes you need to reach out and you need a mental health consultant or a counselor, and that is okay. Body image can get into a lot of the things. Like if we get into anorexia and bulimia, we're getting into some actually classified mental health disorders. So please feel free to reach out. We would love to talk with you. If you just want someone to talk to, like, this is not a bid for trying to find work. We want you to heal. We want you to live a better life. We want you to find healing in that. If this is something that we would be able to help with, yes, we would love to be able to help you. We've walked that path. We're currently walking that path.
Yeah.
And then if it is something that needs some other resources, other people brought in, we definitely would be able to help get you plugged into proper resources in that regard too. So know that you're loved. Know that you have purpose. You have value.
And you're beautifully and wonderfully made.
You are absolutely beautifully and wonderfully made. That is without doubt. So we are here to help. We love you. We care for you. Thank you so much for sticking with us all the way to the end. And we're just like looking forward to the next 1,000 and maybe 5,000, 10,000 downloads. So if you found this information valuable, or someone that could maybe glean something from it, please share, like, subscribe. I know in the podcast world, all that stuff, it makes a difference on how they push us out and who they send us to and suggest new information too. So please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, rating, review, that kind of stuff. Reach out to us on social media, Sound Mind Strategies on Instagram, and Sound Mind Strategies and Services on Facebook. Friend us there, join us. Lots of new stuff coming out. Also, you can reach out through email. Just go to the website, soundmindstrategies.com.
Yes.
Contact us there, and we would love to join you in your journey, help you if we can, connect you with others if we can. So,
certainly.
Anything to add really quick, hon?
No, I think that's it. Everyone have a good week.
Yeah. We'll see you in the next one.
All right. Bye.
Peace.